It's the morning of your 10th birthday. You can hear your mom calling you from downstairs.
And before you know it, you're on your way out of the house.
And off to meet the Pokemon professor.
You are introduced to your partner Pokemon rival, with whom you'll share memories of harrowing battles.
Fateful encounters and insurmountable challenges. Enough memories to last a lifetime.
You'll meet countless friends and enemies alike as you travel across the land.
Searching far and wide and training to be the very best.
It's the morning of your 10th birthday, and you're about to take the very first steps on your own Pokemon journey.
It's a magical thing, isn't it? Every new Pokemon game that comes out is the first Pokemon game that an entirely new generation gets to play. Each and every fan of this series has unique memories of their own experience, and honestly, what other franchise can you think of that continues to have such a radical effect on new players after 24 years of mainline games, spin-offs, TV shows, movies, a trading card game, and sweet, sweet merch?
And who could forget about the breakfast cereal? As fans of the series for pretty much our entire lives, me and Nick remember our first steps in our Pokemon journeys very well. For me, 'twas a cold, dark, dreadful night, as the children of the night sang their death song. You hear them? They played to the beyond. Wait a minute. No, that's Dracula I'm thinking of. Anyway, I was about 9. On the day of an unknown day, I got a Game Boy Advance SP with 2 cartridges. SpongeBob Video, the one with the Rip Pants episode, and Pokemon Fire Red. Yeah, that's right, I'm a Gen 3er. I didn't play it at first, no. Instead, I watched some SpongeBob. I was scared of the big fire dragon. He was probably gonna eat me. But eventually my dad was like, hey, why don't you play the actual game? So I did. I got Fire Red because everyone on my block had Leaf Green, so I had to be different. Obviously I went with Charmander because I have taste, but also I wanted that box art Pokemon. Little did I know he would remain the best starter until... I remember being out on my swing set with a few of my neighbors and I was so horrible at the game, I couldn't figure out how to catch anything because dumb 9-year-old me didn't pay any attention to the old coffee man when he was explaining how to catch a Pokemon, so I had to ask for their help. Everything else is pretty much a blur. I can't remember much of anything else except when I got Ruby and Sapphire. Clear as day, my mom took me to Game Crazy. Shout out to the true heroes who remember Game Crazy. And there was a wall of many copies of the games. I really liked Groudon, so I went to go grab Ruby. But for some reason, Mom wanted to get it from a different store, so the employee left it on the counter. 'Cause we were coming right back. But we never came back. I'm really sorry for the inconvenience. Whoever you are. Wherever you are.
As far as my journey starts, I was at my grandparents' house, bored, like any other 6-year-old, and my aunt, who was still a teenager at the time, gave me her Game Boy along with her copy of Pokemon Blue. Or Red. Honestly, I can't remember. You know what, we'll just call it Pokemon Purple for now. So I was playing her Pokemon Purple, and vaguely remember walking out of a cave and into a Pokemon Center. I noticed the PC in the corner and, still not being able to read, couldn't tell what I was doing even a little bit. I just kept pressing A until all of her party Pokemon were deposited into Box 1, and I thought that I'd released all of her party. So I went up to her crying my eyes out because I thought she would be so mad at me. She wasn't, after she realized how easy the fix was. But flash forward about a year later, my mom sits me down with a new Pokemon game, one that I could call my very own, Pokemon Silver. We sat down on the couch and she helped me pick out my very first starter, a Chikorita that she insisted that we name. We settled on nicknaming it Chicky, but then as soon as she left the room, I restarted the game and chose Cyndaquil. Typhlosion and Lugia would go on to become my very first level 100 Pokemon. That is until my little sister reset my game and I lost everything. But I'm not bitter at all, I promise.
It might not have been perfect, but how we began our journeys as Pokemon fans and trainers was perfect to us. Memories that will carry with us for the rest of our lives. Now, we wouldn't be making this video if that's all we had to say, because of course, the memories are just the beginning.
So please, join us for part 1 of a 3-part series where we'll take a look back at the Pokemon series and how it evolved over time, while also reflecting on our own experiences and how they evolved along with it.
And of course, every great story starts at the beginning.
Released to North America in 1998, Pokemon Red and Blue introduced the entire world to an entirely new one, the fantastical world of Pokemon. For most people our age, their Pokemon journeys began right here in the town of Pallet. But Let's face it, whichever generation you belong to, you've most likely played through the Kanto region at one time or another. And for veterans like us, we've played through it more times than we can count. Well, including all of the remakes, we can count that we've been to Kanto at least 5 times. What else can we say? It's a classic. The Pokédex, the music, the characters, whenever I think of the word Pokemon, these are the games that immediately come to mind.
Each game that brings us back to Kanto adds a little something to the table. Obviously, you have the OGs Red and Blue, or Green if you're over there. Gold and Silver, you get to revisit and see how it's changed over the years, like the Pokemon Tower being converted to a radio station.
Wow, that's messed up.
Or Cinnabar Island being completely destroyed. And Fighting Red. Holy shit, that's cool. But more on that later.
Fire Red and Leaf Green took most of those little annoying things from the originals out, while adding new things like Johto Pokemon and the Sevi Islands. Meanwhile, Heart Gold and Soul Silver once again revamped what Gold and Silver did, and then finally, Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu gave the Kanto region a nice new art style while also doing other things like removing HMs and being able to see Pokemon running around in the wild, so there's far less random encounters on account of the like it or hate it new catching mechanic.
As classic as the original games are, there are many things that make them kind of annoying to play. First of all, HMs. These plague many generations to come, and they really are the worst, and it's crazy to think that it took them 7 generations to finally abolish them.
Other annoying things in Red and Blue include having only 20 item spaces for your bag with no organization, and needing to manually switch the box where you store your newly caught Pokemon every time it gets full can definitely interrupt an otherwise smooth session of gameplay. Not being able to register an item is also inconvenient, especially since getting on and off your bike to counter the slow walking speed is essential to playing the game at a decent pace. Once you get used to being able to run in most every other mainline game after that, having that mechanic stripped away when going back to Gen 1 feels like such a severe handicap.
As far as the Pokemon themselves go, since this was still just the first generation, many mechanics pertaining to them haven't aged too well either. For example, Red, Blue, and Yellow utilize a total of 15 different Pokemon types and 165 different moves.
Compared to the latest games in the franchise, Sword and Shield, which have 18 total types, including the new Dark, Steel, and Fairy types, and a total of 818 different moves, Red, Blue, and Yellow are missing 3 types and 653 moves altogether. This means that new players going back to these games are missing a whole heaping of content, but luckily, there have been plenty of remakes of the Kanto region to fill the gap and give those players the chance to explore it without compromising too much.
Fire Red and Leaf Green, which, if you remember 5 minutes ago, was the games I started with, so nostalgia might be playing a huge factor in this, but I think these are by far the most definitive versions of Kanto there are. It took every single issue we just stated with Red and Blue and fixed them, minus the HMs of course. Plus you have all the add-in stuff like the previously mentioned Sevi Islands, which adds a lot more to do in the game, the Battle Tower, and the Johto Pokédex. These games also pulled no punches. Unlike later entries where it seemed to get easier and easier with each game, these games kicked your ass if you weren't prepared. So no one to heal your team randomly in the wild, no stupid rival picking the starter that's weak to yours. Gary will mess you up if you're not ready. Plus, I just really like the art style to these games.
Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, the latest in the Kanto adventures, were an interesting experiment. Many people took issue with how the game looks, but we actually really like the new vibrant art style. The added feature of seeing Pokemon running around just made the world feel so much more alive. Plus, this gives you more freedom as you can choose to encounter whatever Pokemon you want as opposed to the random encounters implemented in the previous games, which helps finding the exact Pokemon you want for your team. The one moment in the Rocket Hideout where you took control of Eevee or Pikachu was also really neat, and overall, your partner Pokemon added a handful of cool features in its own right. You can pet your partner and feed it snacks like in the Pokemon Care menus of the 3DS games, and it can be seen hanging out on your person along with whichever Pokemon in your party is following you around. However, the biggest problem with these games is the super awful catching system. Let's keep the circle catching to Pokemon Go, please, because this is kind of annoying.
Let's Go Eevee is the game where I finally was able to complete the Pokédex though, so that was pretty exciting. Overall, no matter how sick of Kanto Pokemon fans get, these games will always be the staple of the franchise. Everyone will always remember Red, Bulbasaur, Squirtle, Charmander, Professor Oak, Brock, Misty, Mewtwo, Gary/Asheville/Idiot/Larry, whatever the hell you named him. Pokemon Red and Blue put the series on the map as 2 of the best-selling and critically acclaimed handheld games of all time. But little did anyone know exactly what was about to come next. Two short years after Pokemon Red and Blue were released, Pokemon Gold and Silver hit the scene. Before most people were even done catching the first 151 Pokemon, there were now 100 new Pokemon to capture, befriend, and train along with 2 new types, Dark and Steel, and new evolutions for old Pokemon. And, in many other ways, these games felt like a major evolution for the series itself. For one thing, the game follows a real-world timeline in that the events of Gold and Silver occurred 2 years after Red and Blue, just like in real life, while also letting you explore both the Johto and the Kanto region, just to see all the ways that the world has changed.
This is the first and only time to date that 2 different regions were available to you in one game. In one example, you once again have to take care of Team Rocket, or at least some leftover remnants, as it has been disbanded following its demise at the hands of your player character from the previous games. Other nifty changes include Koga being a member of the Elite Four when he was previously just a gym leader, and, while visiting Kanto, Cinnabar Island being burned to the ground, leaving Blaine to set up his gym in the nearby Seafoam Islands. After exploring both regions and defeating all 16 combined gym leaders, your Johto adventure culminates with a dramatic showdown between you and Red, your previous player character from your adventure in Kanto, giving the series up till that point a true and satisfying sense of finality.
Afterward, continuing the trend set by Pokemon Yellow, Pokemon Crystal was released as the optimal way to experience the Johto region, and acts as one of the biggest advances in the franchise. I don't remember exactly when I played Crystal, but it must have been at some point after getting through Fire Red and Ruby, so I was already pretty familiar with Pokemon at this point. The fact that there were 2 regions blew my mind, and it still blows my mind. How far technology has come, and it's never happened since. Because of this, it remains one of the most unique games in the series, and as Nick mentioned earlier, that fight with Red is something else. Your first time getting to that point is crazy, especially back then when you had no idea that was going to happen. Crystal remains one of my favorite games in the series, and I doubt it'll ever leave. It just had so much new to offer. Not only is it the first Pokemon game to let you choose between a male or female character, but it also introduced animated sprites as well as a neat little name tag drop-down displays for each new town you visit.
These additions were on top of the already new and impressive mechanics introduced to the Generation 2 games, such as the day and night system, which both made the world seem more alive and allowed for clever new ways to introduce new Pokemon. This meant that some Pokemon would only evolve or show up in the wild during specific times of the day, and the introduction of shiny Pokemon, a new breed of each Pokemon species that was colored slightly to dramatically differently. Simple, I know, but finding one of these things feels amazing. Pokemon now also had genders and could be bred to make eggs.
Even with all these advancements, the Generation 2 games aren't without their setbacks. Most of the problems we had with the Generation 1 games appear here as well. However, the bag system was greatly improved by expanding the inventory space and also allowing you to finally register key items such as your bike. It's still super slow walking around because running was not yet invented, so registering the bike is essential. Despite the issues, the overall experience and general sense of advancement brought to the franchise in Gold and Silver offer way more to be excited about in spite of the few gripes we have about the games. We are also happy to say that we feel that the remakes of these games bring that same sense of advancement to the table in the form of Pokemon, Heart Gold, and Soul Silver.
Sure, they still have HMs, but this is the best way to experience the Johto region. Heart Gold and Soul Silver brought back the feature from Pokemon Yellow to have your Pokemon follow you, except not just Pikachu this time, anyone. It brought Kanto and Johto into Hybrid 3D, and it brought in the extra evolutions Diamond and Pearl introduced to the first 2 generations of Pokemon to give you access to all those sweet-ass evolutions like Rhyperior and Gliscor. Personally, I love exploring the second generation Pokemon games and their subsequent remakes because it's one of the 2 times in the franchise that a Pokemon game feels like a direct follow-up to a previous one. Unlike that second example though, Gold and Silver bring you back to the most recognizable region, the one that put this series on the map in the first place. There's a certain sense of nostalgia in exploring the Kanto region again while also being fresh and new on top of being able to experience all that the entirely new Johto region has to offer as well. So at the very least, it feels like you're getting 2 games in one.
Alright Nick, we get it. Pokemon Silver was your first Pokemon game.
Alright, but nostalgia isn't all of it.
Alright, but if we're talking about nostalgia... Where do I even begin with Hoenn? First of all, personally, this is my favorite art style for Pokemon. Both Ruby and Fire Red. The music too. I love me some trumpets. Also, this is the only game to have two different enemy teams. They're nearly the same besides land versus water, but it adds replay by making both versions have their own team. The plot was able to introduce the third legendary, which marked a first for this series. And speaking of legendaries, this game created Latios, which is my personal favorite Pokemon ever, so bonus points there. And then there's the Regis, which are so damn cool. Each one you had to do some weird thing like using Flash in the right spot or having Relicanth and Wailord in your party. It was like a treasure hunt.
The bases were also a nice little addition that were pretty much the first things you could customize in a Pokemon game besides nicknames.
Hey, what's up? It's your boy, and here at my crib. What we got here? Oh, Shield Silver. Oh, 50 times in a row? Psh, no big deal. What we got over here? Yeah, Shield of Gold, 100 times victory. Psh, no big deal. We got here fucking Blastoise, bitch. Oh yeah, he's my homie. He's hanging out. He's chilling. We go up here. Oh, we gonna bounce a little bit. Oh yeah, we got Charizard over here. My other homie, even bigger homie than Blastoise. But over here, we got the homies. We got all three homies. All my dogs in the hood, and there they are. Oh yeah, oh shit. Oh, here we go. Alright, here we go. Yeah, you know what? You know, this place needs to be spruced up a little bit. So let's go ahead and get a motherfucking balloon up in this bitch. Oh shit. Can't put it there. Can't bounce on a balloon apparently. Oh shit. All right, here we go. Now let's check this bitch out. Oh shit. It popped. All right, I'm fucking out of your piece.
Another cool feature introduced in this generation was contests. It was really fun to see how each move your Pokemon could use in battle could also be applied in the contests. The experiments were endless, and getting those cute little stars was so satisfying. The starters were all very strong as well. On top of their amazing designs, they were also the first starters to get their own unique signature moves. To this day, Blaze Kick and Leaf Blade are some of the absolute coolest moves I've ever used. And in this house, we love using these kinds of cool moves in, pause for the outstanding and not awkward at all transition, double battles! These kinds of battles were introduced in Generation 3 and added an entirely new depth and strategy to the tried and true turn-based combat. Also, finally we get to run! That's right, some genius in the Pokemon world finally made comfortable enough shoes to run in. Thanks, scientists.
Okay, so Emerald gets its own category because it's the peak of Pokemon design. And this is not just an opinion, this is a fact of life. The story was altered to have both Team Magma and Aqua fighting in the same game. You're able to catch Groudon and Kyogre along with Rayquaza to complete the Triforce. You get to decide between Latios or Latias at the end to cater to the true players or the weirdos. And for the first time ever, a mid-game cutscene which, wow. Still remember it clear as day too, seeing it for the first time and being totally blown away. The events leading up to it when the weather was all sunny in some parts and raining in others. And of course, save the best for last, the Battle Frontier. Yeah, it turns out Scott over here wasn't just some weirdo following you. Okay, maybe just a little bit. But damn, this place alone can triple your playtime with the game, trying to get all those perfect streaks to challenge the Frontier brains. This is the reason I go back to this game. This is perfection. Well, mostly. The Battle Palace is kinda annoying since all you can do is hope for a long streak with good luck, but everywhere else, it's good shit.
However, and we can't stress this enough because these won't go away for another 4 generations, HMs are back and worse than ever because there's just too much damn water, so you're stuck surfing, diving, and waterfalling for half of your playtime, and for that reason, I gotta give it a 7.8 out of 10. Just kidding, it's not that big of a deal. But unlike Emerald, once the game is over and the story's been told, Ruby and Sapphire really only offer the Battle Tower once you're done. Other than that, and as stated with Gold and Silver, the minor gripes aren't enough to ruin the amazing experience that these games have to offer. And as the latest games to get remakes in the series, As with the remakes of Gold and Silver 2, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire provide enough new and exciting content to make revisiting the Hoenn region a worthwhile time.
Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire were solid remakes. One of the biggest new additions was getting to explore the Hoenn region from the sky on either Latios or Latias, who are one of the many Pokemon that received new Mega Evolutions since the mechanic was introduced in X and Y, which are also released in the same generation. Speaking of Latios and Latias in particular, they're given to you relatively early in the game, instead of you needing to hunt them down in the wild later on. Definitely a game removed from Nintendo. Oh yeah, and they threw in all the Mega Evolutions from X and Y to make Latios, Latias, and your starters, among the other members of your team, even more badass. The only thing that really bugged me is they teased the almighty Battle Frontier.
Despite that, as far as the postgame goes, they did add a bunch of mysterious islands to the overworld that housed legendaries from previous games that were unavailable to the Hoenn region before. And the Delta episode, which took a very popular rumor from the old days and turned it into an actual post-game story. The rumor was that if you waited for the space station to reach 100 in its countdown, it launches you into space, which you finally get to do, and it's awesome! We also got to catch Deoxys without some special event like other mythical Pokemon in the series before. While the Pokemon themselves would continue to evolve for many years, Nintendo's hardware would continue to evolve as well. The Nintendo DS hit the world by storm with its 2 screens, and with that came a brand new era for Pokemon games that dipped its paws into a 3D world. And in that new world came many more new adventures and Pokemon to discover.
Released in the US in the spring of 2007, a couple of years after the DS had already been out, Pokemon Diamond and Pearl took the world by storm and brought Pokemon into the newest handheld era, outselling everything in the previous gen and even the Gen 5 games, but we'll get to those soon enough.
With the transition onto the DS came a new approach to crafting the world's graphics and art style. While not quite fully 3D, the 4th generation of Pokemon games utilized a unique mixture of 3D graphics and sprites, a first for the series. This approach was successful enough to warrant being used later on in the development of the next Nintendo DS Pokemon games, Black and White. But again, we'll get to those in the next one. A feature that's only in these games was traversing Sinnoh's underground, where you could build bases, dig for rare items like fossils, and even bring in a friend so you can riddle the base with traps and bamboozle your buddies. During normal gameplay, the bottom screen of the DS was dedicated to the Poketch, an intuitive watch that your player character wore that housed a number of fun apps for you to play with, including a calculator. So fun.
I remember sinking many hours into these games when they came out. They came out in the prime of my Pokemon phase. Going back, the art style definitely still holds up. Snowpoint City in particular stands out for obvious reasons. It was pretty wild seeing snow in Pokemon. The underground doesn't have much point now, but it gave me a lot of playtime back in the day. And all the new additions like the Poketch were a nice add-on. But, most importantly, Gen 4's greatest contribution to the franchise was Quick Balls, baby! Woo! Seriously, these things are a godsend. Without them, my Pokédex number would only be a third of the size. I am forever in your debt. Whoever invented Quick Balls, I thank you.
I remember being very hyped for these games when they were about to come out. I even remember drawing the 3 starters and box art legendaries from a magazine one night out of pure anticipation. To this day, the Pokédex, characters, music, and regions still hold up and make for an unforgettable Pokemon experience every time I get a chance to dive back into one of these games. Diamond, Pearl, or Platinum, the last of the 3rd and most optimal game in the franchise, all offer up a slew of new Pokemon and awesome evolutions to Pokemon from previous generations to encounter throughout your journey. And waiting for you at the end of your arduous adventure is perhaps the strongest champion to date, Cynthia. On top of being the first female champion, she's also got the best encounter and battle music of any trainer in the entire Pokemon series to date, in my opinion. I mean, come on, how can you hear this startup and not get ready for the fight of your life?
Oh, but how could we forget this? Overall, the games feel really slow in practically every aspect of gameplay. Battles seem to take forever when the health bar travels an inch an hour, and when you're in the overworld, it feels like you're moving through molasses the entire time. These games still have HMs, including Rock Climb, which is arguably the most annoying to use in the overworld. And as far as the post-game goes, Diamond and Pearl don't have much to offer aside from the basic battle tower, but Platinum, on the other hand, at least had a battle frontier. Not as big as Emeralds, but still a hell of a lot more than just the battle tower. And we would like to have a moment of silence for the definitive third version of Pokemon games, with Platinum being the final piece in the Quad Force of games.
As we transitioned into the next generation of Pokemon games, David and I were transitioning into the next big chapter of our own lives. We were about to enter middle school. Our tastes were evolving, just as the Pokemon that we so cherished and trained in the many years before. However, and unfortunately, that meant taking a break from those very same Pokemon for a while.
But even without us, the world of Pokemon would continue to expand. In fact, the largest expansion was just on the horizon. You know, we've sunk so much time into this world that the line between reality and fiction just becomes a blur. Did I just spend all that time riding my bike for fun, or to hatch some eggs? I'm not really sure at this point. It's very vibrant and blended, and not so black and white. We'll see you next time.
Bad joke.
Fuck off, man.